After her husband went to prison saving her, Lana Carter thought she'd buried her past with the man who once took the fall for her crime, but she never imagined the man she betrayed would rise again to bury her future. Ethan Carter wasn't just any husband. He was the kind who loved too much, trusted too deeply, and sacrificed everything to keep his wife free. But while he sat behind cold steel bars counting days, she emptied their accounts, sold their home, and married his best friend, the same man who once called him brother. Now the world sees her as a woman reborn, but beneath the diamonds and champagne, she sleeps beside a secret she doesn't know Ethan already unearthed. Because the man she thinks she destroyed didn't die in prison, he learned how to build empires from ashes. But what kind of man goes to prison for love and comes back for vengeance? What kind of wife trades her husband's sacrifice for his best friend's touch? And when the truth comes knocking, will she even recognize the man who once saved her life? The courtroom was silent enough to hear the judge's pen scrape the paper. Ethan Carter stood straight, hands trembling slightly, face unreadable. 10 years, that's what the sentence was. 10 years for a crime he didn't commit. Across the aisle, his wife Lana dabbed her eyes with a silk handkerchief, crocodile tears over the man she just destroyed. Beside her sat Ryan Holt, Ethan's best friend, his hand resting a little too long on her shoulder. His expression rehearsed sympathy. Ethan didn't look at either of them. He just stared at the empty air between his cuffed wrists, the same hands that once built a business from nothing. "Mr. Carter," the judge said, "you've been found guilty of financial fraud. Your actions cost investors millions. Do you have anything to say before sentencing?" Ethan's lawyer nudged him, but he shook his head. Because the truth wasn't for this room. The truth was for the woman sitting 10 feet away, the one he was taking the fall for. He'd told Lana it was all under control when the FBI came knocking. He'd told her not to worry, that he'd handle it, that love meant protection. And now here he was, protecting her while his entire life burned. The gavel hit like thunder. 10 years in federal prison. Lana's lips curved into the faintest smile. Just a flicker. But Ethan saw it. The kind of smile that said, "You were always too easy to love." As officers led him away, she leaned in and whispered, "You always said you'd do anything for me. Now you did." That night, in a holding cell with peeling paint and flickering lights, Ethan replayed those words over and over. "You always said you'd do anything for me." And then the guard came with his belongings. Everything he owned now fit into one small brown envelope. Inside was a folded family photo. Him, Lana, and the kids, Caleb and Mia. Their smiles frozen in a happiness that had never truly existed. Weeks later, a letter came from an old cellmate who used to work in the same bank as Ethan. The words hit harder than any sentence. "Your wife and Ryan moved into your house, sold everything, closed all accounts. Rumor says they're married now." "Sorry, man." Ethan didn't curse, didn't cry. He just stared at the prison ceiling. In that cold silence, something inside him shifted. Not rage, not despair, calculation. If he'd gone to prison for her sins, then she'd pay for them in ways she couldn't imagine. He whispered into the dark, "You took everything I had. I'll take everything you are." And with that, the quiet man the world pitied died, and the man who would rewrite justice was born. Ethan Carter had spent 3 months learning how silence could cut deeper than sound. In prison, words meant weakness. Eyes meant everything. The day he arrived, he was still the man who believed love could justify anything, even 10 years behind bars for a crime he didn't commit. But prison stripped that illusion fast. The first night, he was jumped by 2 men trying to steal his watch. He didn't fight back, he observed. He watched how power moved. Who controlled cigarettes? Who fixed the guards' radios? Who traded favors for protection? The rules of the outside world didn't matter here. The currency was leverage. He started small, helping inmates write appeals, reading legal codes late into the night. His cellmate, an old accountant named Victor, once whispered, "Men like you don't belong here." Ethan smiled faintly. "Men like me end up here when they love the wrong woman." Victor laughed. "Then stop loving and start learning." He did. Ethan began mapping Ryan Holt's financial empire from memory. Every offshore account, every investor, every secret deal he'd ever helped manage. He wrote it on scraps of paper, folded them into Bible pages. Every night, his rage turned into focus. He replayed that day in court. Lana's fake tears, Ryan's hand on her shoulder, that whisper, "You always said you'd do anything for me. Now you did." But beneath the hatred, there was discipline. He didn't scream. He didn't promise revenge to anyone. He just smiled that quiet smile of a man who'd stopped bleeding and started planning. By his second year, Ethan was tutoring inmates in finance. They called him the professor. One guard, Officer Briggs, respected him enough to sneak him newspapers. That's how he saw it. The headline, Ryan Holt Investments expands into real estate with Lana Holt as executive partner. The photo showed Lana in a red dress, smiling beside Ryan in their former mansion, the same home Ethan had built. That night, he stared at the image for an hour before carefully folding it. "Enjoy it while it lasts," he whispered, "because I'm coming for every brick." He began writing letters, not to Lana, but to contacts from his old network. He pretended to forgive her, to accept his fate. He asked polite questions about market trends, about technology startups, seeds. Every letter was a chess move. Then came Detective Nora James, a woman from his past, once a friend in college. She visited him, skeptical. "Why'd you confess?" she asked. Ethan said nothing, just passed her a single paper. "Follow the transfers before my conviction." When she left, she said, "If you're lying, I'll find out." Ethan looked up slowly. "If I were lying, I'd still be rich." Months later, Nora returned with eyes wide. "You didn't move the money, Ethan. Lana did." He exhaled, slowly, almost smiling. "Then I guess you know who deserves to be in here." That night, for the first time in 3 years, Ethan slept soundly. Not because he was free, but because his revenge had finally found direction. Ethan Carter stepped through the prison gates with a duffel bag and 10 years' worth of ghosts trailing behind him. The sun hit his face like something foreign. For the first time in years, he wasn't counting concrete cracks or listening for keys jingling down a hallway. Freedom should have felt like air, but all it carried was the stench of betrayal. The world had moved on without him. His home was gone, his accounts closed, his name ruined. To the public, he was the ex-con husband who went to prison for fraud. To Lana, he was a memory she'd already buried beneath Ryan Holt's diamond promises. He didn't call her. He didn't visit the kids. He just walked until the city noise swallowed him. A black car pulled up beside him. A woman stepped out, Harper Vale. Sharp suit, calm eyes, a folder in hand. "Mr. Carter?" she said softly. "Or do you prefer Ethan?" He studied her, cautious. "Who sent you?" "I work with a firm that admired your analytical work before all this." She opened the folder. Inside was a new identity, a business registration, and bank credentials. "If you're ready to rebuild, I know where to start." Ethan flipped through the pages. New name, E. Vaughn. Clean record, digital footprints erased. Harper's voice lowered. "We'll help you move unseen. But tell me, what exactly are you rebuilding?" He met her gaze. "Not rebuilding, rewriting." The next months unfolded like chess. Under the alias E. Vaughn, Ethan began consulting through Harper's firm. His mind was sharper than ever, honed by prison silence and precision. Every contract, every transaction, every algorithmic model he built was designed for one hidden purpose: access. Access to Ryan Holt's empire. Through layers of shell corporations, Ethan's quiet tech startups began feeding data to Holt Investments. Ryan thought he'd discovered a genius investor. He didn't know he was funding his own collapse. At night, Ethan scrolled through news photos. Ryan and Lana attending galas, smiling with champagne flutes. He paused on one picture, Lana's hand resting on Ryan's chest, wedding ring glinting under lights. His jaw tightened. He whispered, "You stole my life. I'll make you live my prison." The revenge wasn't loud. It was surgical. He donated anonymously to charities Lana supported, then exposed those same charities for laundering funds through Ryan's firm. He planted whispers in investor circles. Subtle, slow poison. 3 months later, the company's quarterly numbers dropped. Not enough to panic, just enough to start the cracks. Harper noticed. "You're dismantling them." Ethan smiled faintly. "No, I'm teaching them patience." Every night before he shut down his laptop, he'd look at the photo of Caleb and Mia. "One day," he whispered, "you'll know the truth. And when you do, I won't be the villain." Because in his world now, revenge wasn't rage. It was justice wearing a calm man's smile. Lana Carter's laughter echoed off the marble walls of the same mansion Ethan once built from scratch. From the outside, her world looked flawless. Crystal chandeliers, champagne dinners, designer dresses, and her new husband, Ryan Holt, the man who used to be Ethan's best friend. But beneath the golden glass, tiny cracks were forming. And every single one of them had Ethan's fingerprints on it. It started small. One morning, Ryan woke up to news that two of their biggest investors had pulled out. Market volatility, his CFO explained. But it wasn't volatility. It was precision. Ethan's shell companies had quietly spread false projections into Ryan's investment data, subtle enough to pass audits but strong enough to spark doubt. At night, Ethan watched it all unfold from his penthouse downtown, the one he bought under a hidden trust. Harper stood beside him, scrolling through reports. "He's bleeding money and doesn't even know it yet," she said. Ethan sipped his coffee, eyes cold. "He will. Right now, I'm just letting him think he's winning." Across town, Lana sat in front of a vanity mirror, her diamond earrings catching soft light. But when she looked closer, she saw something she hadn't seen in years, the tiredness behind her own reflection. Ryan was different lately, distant, secretive, angry. Sometimes she caught him staring at their kids like he was doing math in his head, because he was. A week ago, an anonymous envelope had arrived on Ryan's desk. Inside were DNA test results, his own handwriting forged perfectly, proving that Caleb and Mia weren't Ethan's children. At first, he thought someone was blackmailing him, but when the second envelope came, this time with Ethan's prison photo attached, the message was clear. He knows. Ryan didn't tell Lana. He just poured another drink and whispered, "He's supposed to be gone." That same night, Lana scrolled through her phone and saw a social post trending. Ex-convict Ethan Carter launches innovative fintech firm, a rising phoenix in Dallas. Her glass slipped from her hand, shattering on marble. The headline burned into her mind. Ethan was alive, free, and building again. In the dark, she called Ryan. "He's out," she said, voice trembling. "He's back." Ryan went silent. So, she snapped. "You framed him, Ryan. He could destroy us." But Ryan only laughed bitterly. "Lana, you're the one who forged his signature." Silence, just the sound of her breath catching. For the first time, the cracks between them weren't hidden. They were spreading fast. Miles away, Ethan closed his laptop, watching the same article rise in the algorithm. His company name glowed across the screen. Vaughn Industries, the silent predator stalking its prey. He whispered, "Now they'll start to see what it feels like when your world begins to rot." And the next phase of his revenge had just begun. Ryan Holt's reputation had always been his fortress. Sharp suits, sharper deals, and the illusion of control. But lately, that fortress had started to crumble. Subtle rumors circled investor circles. Journalists were suddenly asking questions about missing funds, and a once loyal board member had resigned for personal reasons. Ryan blamed everyone, competitors, markets, even Lana. Never once did he imagine the ghost he betrayed was the one pulling the strings. Ethan sat in a dimly lit office late that night, Harper typing silently beside him. On the screen, a dozen fake accounts posted articles exposing Ryan's company's shady dealings. Anonymous sources, digital fingerprints untraceable. The data wasn't fabricated, it was weaponized truth, carefully timed leaks. "Tonight's the charity gala," Harper said softly. "You could confront them there." Ethan's lips curved slightly. "No, let them dance first." At the gala, flashbulbs erupted as Ryan and Lana stepped onto the red carpet. Cameras loved them, the power couple who'd rebuilt after tragedy. Lana sparkled in silver satin, smiling like a woman who'd finally won. But inside, her chest thudded too fast. For weeks, strange letters had been arriving, each one containing something from Ethan's past. His watch, his cufflinks, his prison ID. No note, just objects. Tonight, as she held her champagne, a waiter approached with an envelope. "For you, ma'am?" She frowned, opening it. Inside was a single photo. Ethan standing outside a downtown tower with a new logo, Vaughn Industries. Her hand froze. Ryan noticed. "What is it?" Her throat dried. "Nothing." Across the room, a tall man in a black suit watched them calmly. No one recognized him. No one except Lana. Their eyes met for a heartbeat. Her fingers went cold. "Ryan," she whispered, trembling. "He's here." Ryan turned, scanning the crowd. But Ethan was already gone, disappearing into the sea of glitter and music like a ghost. Moments later, every screen in the hall flickered. The live charity stream glitched, then played footage of Ryan's firm's recent fraud scandal, data charts flashing, names exposed. Gas rippled through the crowd. Reporters scrambled. Lana's diamond clutch fell to the floor. "Ryan, what is this?" Ryan's face turned white. "Who did this?" Ethan walked out of the building as security chaos erupted behind him. Harper waited by the car. "Was that the first strike?" Ethan looked back at the glowing skyscraper. That was the warning shot. Back inside, reporters swarmed. Ryan's investors were watching the live feed from their phones, furious calls already flooding in. And Lana, her makeup streaked, her hands shaking, could only whisper one name, Ethan. That night, Ethan stood alone in his penthouse, city lights reflecting in his eyes. "Let's see how it feels," he murmured, "when the applause starts fading." And somewhere in her mansion, Lana knew, whatever Ethan Carter was planning next, it wasn't just revenge. It was justice wearing a tailored suit. Ryan Holt had built his marriage like a brand, high gloss, zero truth. But now that brand was rotting from the inside. Investors were gone, clients restless, and his wife's laughter had become something sharp and brittle. He drank more, slept less. And lately he'd been seeing Ethan everywhere. His name in headlines, his eyes in dreams. One morning a delivery arrived at their mansion. No return address. Inside was a sleek black box with a note, "For the children's memories." Lana smiled faintly, thinking it was some expensive toy order. But when she opened it, 2 DNA test envelopes fell out. Her breath hitched. On top was a photo, Caleb and Mia at school, Ethan standing in the background, watching quietly from the parking lot. She screamed. Ryan rushed in, snatching the photo, his face drained of color. "Where did this come from?" "I don't know," she whispered. "He's stalking us." Ryan's hands shook as he opened one envelope, Caleb's results, then the next, Mia's. He scanned the papers once, twice, 3 times, his jaw clenched. "These results?" His voice cracked. "Ethan's not their father." Lana froze. "Ryan, that's insane." "Don't lie to me," he exploded, slamming the papers against the vanity. "You said you ended it with him before we—" He stopped, breathing hard, staring at her with disgust. "You used me." Her voice trembled. "I loved you." "No, you used both of us." The room went silent, except for the sound of Ryan's glass shattering on the floor. That night, he slept in the guest room. Lana stayed up till morning, staring at the empty space beside her. Across the city, Ethan watched the scene through the hidden camera feed from their living room. Harper turned to him. "You really went that far?" Ethan's tone was quiet. "No, I just showed them the truth they buried." Harper studied him. "They'll destroy each other. That's the point." By the next week, tabloids exploded with scandal. Rumors surround Holt family. DNA leak raises questions. Ethan's connections in the media had done their job. Ryan fired half his team, accused everyone of betrayal. Lana stopped showing up at events, and Ethan's company, Vaughn Industries, rose higher on the same stock exchange Ryan was falling from. At a late-night bar, Ryan found himself staring at the news ticker, the letters E. Vaughn flashing in neon. He whispered, "He's back." At that same hour, Ethan was in his penthouse, watching the Holt Mansion security footage. Ryan yelling, Lana crying, their perfect world cracking. His reflection in the window was calm, unflinching. "They took my name," he murmured. "Now I'll take theirs." And that night, while rain poured down over Dallas, Ethan Carter, now E. Vaughn, smiled for the first time since prison. Because for the first time, revenge had a face. Rain drummed softly against the glass walls of Vaughn Industries as Ethan Carter leaned over his desk. The city of Dallas stretched beneath him like a chessboard. On his monitor, a live broadcast played. Ryan Holt pacing in front of microphones, reporters firing questions that cut like knives. "Mr. Holt, is it true that your firm falsified financial statements? Did you know about the DNA scandal before it went public? Have your investors withdrawn?" Ryan's polished confidence was gone. His tie was loose, his voice cracking. No comment. That's all he could manage before his PR manager pulled him away from the cameras. Ethan muted the feed and smiled faintly. "They're devouring him," Harper said, scrolling through social media trends. "Every outlet's carrying the same story. His credibility's done." "Not yet," Ethan murmured. "Credibility fades. Legacy collapses." The next morning, Ryan woke up to find a drone hovering above his mansion's gate, snapping pictures. By noon, those photos were everywhere, inside Ryan Holt's 12 home as empire crumbles. The same tabloids that once praised him were now quoting anonymous insiders claiming fraud, infidelity, and embezzlement. Lana stormed into his office, mascara streaked, phone in hand. "You have to fix this." "Fix what?" he shouted. "You made this mess." She threw the phone at him. On the screen was a headline, "Ethan Carter, the man who took the fall, new business titan forgives his enemies." She stared at him, trembling. "He's not forgiving you, Ryan. He's rewriting the story." Across town, Ethan was doing exactly that. He'd hired a PR strategist, one of the same firms that used to represent Ryan. Every article painted Ethan as the man who'd been betrayed but found strength in rebuilding. Each photo was perfectly staged. Clean suit, calm smile, no bitterness. The public loved it. Investors loved him. Meanwhile, Ryan's board held an emergency meeting. Ethan's anonymous shell company had quietly bought out 51% of Holt Investments' shares during the chaos. By the time Ryan realized what had happened, he no longer controlled the company that bore his name. The news broke that afternoon. Ryan burst into their bedroom, face pale. "He owns it," he said quietly. "He owns everything." Lana blinked. "What do you mean?" "I mean, our company, our name, our house. It's all his now." She laughed shakily, thinking it was impossible, until she saw the proof, a notarized document showing E. Vaughn Holdings as the majority shareholder. Across the city, Ethan poured himself a drink, watching Ryan's press conference crumble in real time. Harper entered the room. "He's losing it." "That's what guilt looks like when the mask falls," Ethan said softly. Outside the building, a billboard flickered to life. Carter Foundation, restoring lives, rebuilding futures. Underneath was Ethan's face. A man once branded a criminal was now being hailed as a savior, and the man who betrayed him was now the one everyone wanted to see fall. Ethan raised his glass toward the skyline. "Now," he whispered, "let's see what happens when love dies and legacy follows." Lana Carter hadn't seen Ethan in person for nearly 6 years, but that night, sitting alone in her half-empty mansion, she swore she could still feel his presence in every shadow. The silence was suffocating. Ryan was gone, hiding from lawsuits and the media. The children were at her mother's house, and the only sound in the house that used to echo with laughter was the slow tick of the grandfather clock Ethan once restored by hand. A car stopped outside. Tires crunched against wet gravel. Lana looked through the window, heart hammering, as a black sedan pulled up. A tall man stepped out, dressed in a dark coat, moving with quiet precision. She didn't need to see his face. Some part of her soul already knew who it was. The knock came soft, 3 times. She opened the door. Ethan Carter stood there, older, sharper, eyes calm but unreadable. The rain glistened on his coat, but he looked untouched by it, as if the storm belonged to him. "Ethan," her voice cracked. You're here." He studied her in silence. Then, "Nice house. Looks familiar." She swallowed hard. I didn't know what else to do after you emptied our accounts?" His tone was quiet, too controlled. "After you married the man who framed me?" Her lips trembled. "You don't understand. I was scared." "You were greedy." He stepped inside, every word cutting deeper. "You thought you could erase me. You thought prison would break me." Lana's tears spilled. "I thought you'd hate me forever." He gave a small, humorless smile. "Forever was too easy. I chose patience instead." She looked up, eyes red. "You ruined us, Ethan. The company, the house, the press. You destroyed everything." "No," he said softly, moving closer. "You destroyed me. I just returned the favor." She backed up until she hit the wall. "What do you want?" "The truth," he said. "I want you to remember the man you traded for comfort, the one who went to prison for a crime you committed, the one you betrayed in every possible way." Her hands shook. "I can't fix the past." He paused, eyes narrowing. "Neither can I, but I can finish it." He handed her a folder, thick, sealed, stamped with legal insignias. "This is your freedom, Lana. Everything you own, your remaining shares, your accounts, even this house, transferred to the Carter Foundation. You'll walk away with nothing." Her breath caught. "You can't." "I already did." She stared at him, broken. "Why? Why are you doing this to me?" Ethan's eyes softened for just a heartbeat. "Because you never asked that when you did it to me." He turned toward the door, his reflection flickering in the glass. "Tell Ryan I said thank you for teaching me how betrayal works." As he walked out into the rain, Lana collapsed to the floor, clutching the papers. She screamed his name once, but the storm swallowed it. Outside, Ethan didn't look back. Harper's car idled nearby. "Was it worth it?" she asked as he got in. He stared ahead, voice low. "No revenge ever is, but justice feels close." And as the mansion lights faded behind him, Ethan Carter left the woman who once ruined his life with nothing but the echo of everything she'd lost. Ryan Holt was no longer a man. He was a ghost haunting the ruins of his own name. His company gone, his wife gone, his home under foreclosure, and his phone never stopped ringing. Not from friends, but reporters, creditors, and lawyers clawing for the last pieces of what used to be Holt Investments. He sat alone in a cheap motel room, surrounded by whiskey bottles and unpaid bills. On the television, the news anchor smiled brightly. In other news, Ethan Carter, known publicly as E. Vaughn, announces the Carter Foundation Scholarship for ex-convicts rebuilding their lives after wrongful convictions. Ryan's hand shook. He threw the remote at the screen, shattering it. "He's mocking me," he shouted into the silence. But Ethan wasn't mocking him. He was finishing him. That same morning, a convoy of news vans gathered outside Ryan's old corporate headquarters. Ethan's legal team had called for a press conference. Ryan, broken and furious, showed up uninvited. The building he once owned now bore new golden letters: Carter Equity Holdings. When Ethan stepped up to the podium, cameras flashed. Calm, poised, immaculate in a charcoal suit. He didn't look like a man who'd spent years behind bars. He looked like vengeance personified. 7 years ago, Ethan began, his voice steady, I was imprisoned for crimes I did not commit. I lost everything, my freedom, my home, my name. But from those ashes I rebuilt, not with revenge in my heart, but with clarity. Ryan pushed through the crowd shouting, "You ruined me. You stole my company." Ethan didn't flinch. He simply turned to the cameras. "Ladies and gentlemen, this man here, Ryan Holt, was the one who helped frame me. The evidence is public now. The FBI has reopened the case." Gasps rippled through the crowd. A reporter turned toward Ryan. "Is that true, Mr. Holt?" Ryan's face went pale. "He's lying. He's manipulating you." Ethan's assistant handed the press folders, bank statements, digital transfers, recordings of Ryan's conversations with federal investigators. The same system Ryan used to destroy Ethan was now weaponized against him. Within hours, the internet exploded. Ryan Holt Exposed trended across platforms. Videos of his breakdown went viral. Investors denounced him publicly. By sunset, federal agents arrived at his motel. As they handcuffed him, Ryan muttered, "You won't win? Ethan, you're no better than me." Ethan watched from a distance, Harper beside him. "I didn't need to be better," he said quietly. "I just needed to be smarter." Later that night, Ethan stood alone in his penthouse, watching the city lights blink below. He opened his phone and replayed the news clip of Ryan's arrest. His reflection stared back, eyes cold but hollow. "You took my life," he whispered to the empty room. "Now I've taken yours." He poured a glass of bourbon, but it didn't taste like victory. It tasted like finality. He had destroyed the man who betrayed him, but the silence afterward felt heavier than prison walls. He turned off the lights and whispered into the dark, "Two down, one left." Because Lana Carter's reckoning wasn't over yet. The rain had turned the city into a mirror when Ethan Carter stepped out of the car for the last time. He could see his reflection in every wet surface, an image of a man who had lost everything and taken it all back, piece by piece. Tonight wasn't about victory. It was about ending the story that began the day he walked into prison to save the woman standing across the marble floor of the Carter Foundation. Lana Carter had been summoned for a formal settlement discussion. She came dressed in the last of her designer armor, high heels clicking across the polished tiles. Around her were portraits of former inmates, men and women Ethan had helped rebuild their lives. The irony wasn't lost on her. He turned slowly when she entered. No guards, no board members, just the two of them. "Ethan," she said, voice trembling, "please, I have nothing left. You've taken everything." He studied her quietly. "No, Lana. I gave you something I never should have. Trust. What I took back was mine." Her eyes glistened. "You've proven your point. You won. Can't you let me live?" He stepped closer, every movement deliberate. "You don't understand. This was never about winning. You can't win against someone who already lost everything once." She swallowed hard. "Then what is this?" "This," he said, gesturing around, "is your mirror. Every face on these walls, people society abandoned, people who had nothing. Those are the lives you and Ryan pretended to ruin for profit. I built this place to give them what prison gave me, clarity." Lana's lips quivered. "You're still cruel." He shook his head. "Cruel would have been silence. Cruel would have been letting you live comfortably, pretending you were forgiven. This isn't cruelty, it's closure." Tears streamed down her cheeks. "The kids, do they know?" He paused. "They will, and they'll know who their real father is and what kind of woman tried to destroy him." She sank to her knees. "Ethan, please, I loved you once." "For a moment," he said softly, "but you loved what I could give you more." He turned toward the tall glass doors. Outside, the storm had finally quieted, city lights reflecting off puddles like scattered stars. Harper waited by the car, watching as Ethan stopped under the awning, exhaling a long final breath. "Is it done?" she asked. He nodded slowly. "It's over. She'll live, but she'll never forget." As the car pulled away, Lana remained on the cold marble floor, staring at the portfolio Ethan had left behind, a document transferring her remaining possessions to the Carter Foundation, the last act in his brutal, precise justice. In the distance, thunder rolled again. And for the first time in years, Ethan Carter didn't feel hate, only the quiet ache of a man who had finally finished his war. He whispered to himself, "She took my life, my love, and my name, but she'll spend the rest of hers remembering who I became." And as dawn broke over Dallas, the city's skyline glowed against the fading storm. Rebirth painted over ruin, one man's vengeance turned into redemption.